Hello, welcome back, everyone, to another episode. We're going to dive right into it in a little bit. So, not right into it, but it's good to be here with you. Today, we're going to be talking about a movie and kind of the cultural things I was seeing in it called The Last Samurai with Tommy Cruise. A great movie. I just want to quickly go over that. I do want to mention there's a lot of heat going on in the Middle East right now. Iran, Israel, the Gulf countries, and obviously the US. So probably be talking more about that in the future. The reporting does seem weird on it though. It seems a little bit delayed. I don't know what's up with that. Maybe you could argue it's the Iranian. They have a huge, if you don't know this, they have a huge internet. What would you call it? They're blocking people from getting on the internet in Iran. I don't know the technical term for that. So information, but that was happening before too. So I don't know what's going on right now, but it's just hard to get news out of there. The U.S. claimed that Iran had downed an Apache helicopter yesterday, so it's a little spicy because of that. We're saying they did it. They haven't said anything. I think they actually have some of their officials have come on record and said that we're just using it as an excuse to bomb them. So it could get interesting. I just wanted to mention that. Yeah, and I think I'll leave it there. I do want to talk about this movie because I think it's got a lot of different features that are important on this show. So if you don't know, The Last Samurai was a 2003 movie and it's going to be, the title probably gives it away, but it's going to be about Japan. And I'm not going to tell you the whole thing about the movie, but a little bit is that you have an American soldier played by Tom Cruise is going to end up in Japan, and he's going to kind of end up in their whole political situation, fighting for one side and then the other. But what this movie allows us to do is it introduces the American population to the Japanese samurai culture. And I'm not an expert on Japanese samurai culture. I'm mostly just going off this movie and what someone I know who has studied Japanese history has mentioned to me in passing. But Japanese culture, or Japanese samurai culture, I should say, is very interesting. I draw from it similarities to the feudal culture of the Middle Ages in Europe. I think they're very similar, obviously different, but they do have some similarities. Feudal lords as warriors is going to be a huge one. A focus on honor, I guess they wouldn't call it chivalry, but they do have like a certain warrior's code. Obviously, they're going to be the Japanese samurai culture is not based on Christianity, whereas the feudal Middle Ages European culture or chivalrous culture is going to be based on Christianity. So a lot of cool little ties there. So I do want to say, what do I want to say here? So they have those similarities. Obviously, the big thing people know about the Japanese samurai culture is like, you know, death before dishonor. Kind of, they'll kill themselves for various reasons that I don't fully understand, but I know one of his like, they're either going to die by the enemy or they're going to die from their own hand. So very, very interesting. It's not really what I want to get talking about. It's kind of just making a little ground basis for what I want to jump into. The first thing I want to jump into that has to do with the movie and the samurai culture is honor. And they make it very apparent in this movie that these men, so these samurai men, they care a lot about what their duty is and what they're supposed to do. And that is seen to them as more important as a lot of different things. Death, pain, doing what's easy, doing what's simple. And they do show actually in the movie some samurai who have actually like kind of betrayed that and like kind of the shame that carries with them by not doing their duty and not being faithful or loyal. And I think this honor, this whole thing, when you watch the movie as a modern Western person, you're really struck by how little we care about honor. And I'm not going to say we don't care about honor at all, but you see in this, I'm going to use capitalistic culture, but like this money grabbing, profit driven security culture, honor is kind of put on a back burner. There is, it seems to me, there is still a concept of honor, but it's so much less than you, even like me, like 20 years ago, feeling like people doing their duty because it's, it's what they're tasked with by the community, by the state, or just the moral duty that they have. This has been put on such a back burner, so when you watch this movie, at least for me, it's like you're almost, like, uncomfortable how how honorable these samurai are and how maybe dishonorable our culture is, and you really, for myself, I admired that in the movie, like, yes, I would love to die, doing my duty, doing something for my community, doing something that's right. I would love to do that, which maybe that's easy to say. Maybe I hope every man wants that and every woman wants that, in a different way. Um, but you can even see this in the simple things, like even with the women in this samurai culture, like they have duties and they know their place, or they try to know their place. And then you think of modern women, right? Do you, and I'll let you think about it. Like when you think of modern women, and women are going to be like, "Oh, that's I know my duty." And if you do know your duty, I'm not talking about you, but I think anyone can recognize that the majority of women in the modern West um, do not have this recognition of duty, do not appreciate duty, do not go out of their way to fulfill their duties, or even to discover what those duties might be. And you can say feminism, you can say it, communism, all these different things, the degradation of the culture, but that's a huge part of it that's missing. So when you think of women, you're like, I that is something admirable. A woman who like knows what her duty is and like takes pride in that, takes joy in fulfilling that duty. And then obviously, hopefully the women. I just talked about the men, so now I'm just talking about the women. But yeah, men, the desire or the fortitude to follow through with what is right, for your country, your family, for God, obviously highest of all. So that's a huge thing. Honor, just the idea of honor. This movie is cool because it just brings it to the forefront. It's very much about that. So that's something I liked. Um, and then so there's this dynamic, which is true in actual history. There's this dynamic between Japan as like holding on to their traditions and their roots, the samurai culture, um, technology, different things. And then there's like this, it shows it as a Western influence, which was probably to a large extent true. The Western influence kind of being like, you need to update your technology, your financial capabilities, your military prowess, new weapons, new way of doing things, even new clothes. They kind of mention that, which is interesting because Japanese people a lot of times they still wear like Western clothes, which it's not necessarily a bad thing of itself, but it is kind of an interesting kind of step forward. But the idea, one of the ideas that I agreed with, and I'll give you some stuff that I disagreed with, but one of the ideas I agreed with was when money moves in, that's when kind of honor leaves. When you start thinking about like, the economics, the money, what do we got to do? Not that those things aren't important and you shouldn't think about them, but when those things dominate, honor takes a back seat. And I see that in the West too. Because yeah, I'll get that into that later. But so that was something I really enjoyed that the movie showed was, yeah, we all need to make money and different things, but like, are you really going to choose money over honor? Are you going to do a dishonorable thing to get more money? I think I see that all the time. Even like something like day trading. I'm like, I'm not gonna argue right now it's like necessarily evil or anything, but like, what are you doing for society? What is that helping? Um, and what are you accomplishing? Where is the honor in that? And a lot of people will not like that. But that's what I think of. Obviously, and you could think of immoral activity. I don't know if I should even mention it because it's like giving it space. But yeah, I'll just mention it. But if you don't know, there's a huge, I'll call it an epidemic of OnlyFans, what should I call them? Women that are just degrading themselves for the sake of money on OnlyFans. and they're making a ton of money if you believe the reports. And but like that, those women are giving up their honor, their dignity for the money, and that's kind of a straightforward, um, easy point to make with those women. But it's like, is it better now we have more freedom to navigate? You can go higher and lower in the social ladder, different things like that. But to really do that, sometimes you have to like give up your dignity and give up your not give up your dignity, but drag your dignity through the mud. Um, take up very lowly things, even sinful things. And in a culture that appreciated honor, this would be much more difficult to do, and it would be very frowned upon. Whereas now a lot of people, they won't even step up to it. Even if someone didn't even doesn't even think that's a good idea or thinks that it is immoral, they have a hard time even speaking up about it because they don't want to be judgmental or they want to be tolerant. Um, so that's something this movie showed. It wasn't like about that specific stuff, but it was about how money can so quickly, and this is scriptural too, right? Our Lord is not constantly talking about like fornication or self abuse, even though you could argue he talks about those things indirectly, or even like murder that much, or committing acts of violence to other people. But something he keeps mentioning constantly is money, and how money is makes it very difficult to achieve salvation, and what the kind of things it can do to you. One example of this is when he talks about how you cannot serve two masters, and this is right after he's talking about money. And then at the end, he says, "You cannot serve God and mammon, or you cannot serve God and riches." So he keeps hammering this point home. But basically, this movie did a really good job of showing how money can really do that. And yeah. And another thing this movie was talking about was modernization. And I do want to say here, I do understand how countries do have to modernize if they want to keep their sovereignty. Because when you have countries that very rapidly technologically advance, and you can kind of see two waves here. You have Islam that kind of has a little bit of a technological advance, and they're able to like push into Europe super far. And then after a long extent of time, eventually Europe gets the upper hand in terms of the technological advances, and they rode that until you could argue the 20th, 21st century, and now you have other countries that are kind of catching up to that European boom of technology. Yeah, but nowadays it is necessary for countries to kind of update if they want to maintain their sovereignty. It's kind of a sad thing, but if you do not have some level of technology, another country can just walk over you, and they will walk over you. It's happened before. It's happening again. The U.S. has done it. Other superpowers have done it. You can think of the British, the Russians, the Chinese, the Japanese, even at certain points, and the list goes on. It's not just those countries. So yeah, so it's the movie kind of shows the balance of like it's like this inevitable modernization of Japan. It's not desirable. The culture before this modernization is so they depict it at least as very beautiful, um, beautiful in a visual sense and beautiful as in a cohesive sense as well. Like the people in these villages and these communities are very tied together. The landscapes are very beautiful. Even the war, you could kind of argue, if assuming this movie is depicting it correctly, like the war is even beautiful and like more. I don't know. This may be kind of a stretch, but more humane, maybe. It's one thing to see sword battle, and another thing to just see like people getting shot by missiles and guns from a distance. I think that's more of a stretch. But yeah, it shows this very tense struggle between tradition and modernization, and I would argue sometimes necessary modernization. So that was another thing. But so those are all great things. And then the thing that I super disagree with, just a common disagreement I have with Hollywood movies for obvious reasons. Hollywood is very owned and operated by um, different groups of people, especially the Jews own a lot of Hollywood. That's just a fact. And for some of them have admitted, and some of them I'll just give them the benefit of the doubt, and they're just you know following the culture, the left wing culture or something. But some of them admitted that, like, they do not like Western culture, they do not like Christian culture, and they really try to degrade it anytime they can, Hollywood. And in this movie, there are things that the West has done that have been not great for anyone, have been evil. I don't think anyone can deny that. But I do think it's important for the West, for whatever you want to call them, Europeans, really Catholics, but call them Christians in general, white people, if you want to talk about them in that way. It's very important for, because I'm half Italian, us or them, or for you, if you have that culture, to also be proud. Like for a Japanese person to be proud of their samurai heritage, I think that's really cool. And I think there are a lot of things to be proud of. Was it all great? Probably not. But there's a lot of things to be proud of there. And the same thing I would say for Western culture or Christian culture, European culture, whatever you want to call it, is like, yeah, there was maybe we did some bad things with Japan, and it mostly probably the US and the UK are involved in that. But there's a lot of beautiful things, and we should be proud of those things. We shouldn't let these movies, because this movie was just, it was just West bashing basically. Like they couldn't even pick up on like they were trying to show like the Japanese were very spiritual and like the West was like spiritually void, and I'm like, that is just not true. Obviously, we were under attack before them with, capitalism and, market values and stuff like that. But no, the West has its own spiritual riches, and European descended people, you need to turn around and like you're living in Christian culture. You need to embrace it. You need to love it. Stop stop listening to these people that are telling you that your culture is just all terrible and that your old religion is all terrible. That's just a bunch of nonsense. So this movie was kind of pushing that. Super annoying. Most people, if you're in the culture wars, you already know that this is going on. But yeah, this movie, and I've seen other movies, and it just pains me because I want to see the movie. Like we're watching like these very niche, vague Japanese history unfold on the screen. Can you mention one movie that is like positively depicting the Crusaders? That is like prime Western culture, or positive, even depicting Charlemagne and all, but in a positive way. Every time I hear the West talk about Charlemagne, unless it's like, devout Catholics, it's a negative thing. Oh, we forced these barbarians to convert to Christianity, blah, blah, blah. It's like, we need to go back. We need to embrace that. We need to love it. We need to learn about it, because these were brave men. These were amazing people. Was it all good? No. There was a lot of struggles, but Europe and the West has brought the world so far forward. Forward, it's kind of a weird word. Brought us so far in so many different ways. It's just a shame that its own descendants, its own people cannot appreciate it. And you have to understand you are under attack. Like you have to understand that. I was talking briefly, I was texting briefly with someone. I'm reading the biography of St. Margaret Clitheroe. You should look her up. She's an English martyr in the 16th century. And when they're setting up her life, they're talking about how Cecil Hughes, or Lord Burghley, I don't know how you pronounce it. I think it's Burghley. I only read these words. How he's literally doing like almost like a modern CIA, Mossad, MI5 tactics back in the 16th century, where he has these like literally written strategies of how he's going to eradicate the Catholic faith using propaganda and the military, or the police force and the military, to just crush Catholicism in England. And it's like, come on, guys, we need to understand that that is still happening today. These movies, the police, if you've been following the stuff that where they were arresting Catholics under the Biden administration, the police, the movies, the media, trying to make you ashamed of being Catholic, of being Western, of being European. All, basically trying to not, and it's not like we want to put other cultures down or anything, but we need to love our own culture. It's beautiful, and do not let them tell you otherwise. And it's, the churches are amazing, but it's more than the churches. It's the chivalry. I mean, think of the Crusades. You think samurai in Japan are cool, think of the beautiful European men that left their lives behind, often very rich men, to just go battle the Muslims in the Middle East, not knowing if they'll ever make it home. Like, can't we get an inspiring story about that? Um, but yeah, so I mean, the movie was really cool, but then it's got that stuff in it, so I just got to push back against that. European man, love your ancestors, love your religion, love your land. By golly. But it's an uphill battle. I can't tell you how many times I'm seeing Western men and women just totally self-hating their culture and their ancestors. It hurts me so much. Doesn't mean we can't call them out when they did something wrong, but like, come on, people. It's nuts. I can't believe how much we've been hijacked and brainwashed, and we need more people to know this. Please send people this video, and they can just watch this angry dude in a hat tell these Christians, like, yo, stop hating yourself. Think of all the amazing things that the European civilization has done. It's crazy. Even just spreading Christianity by itself is just an amazing feat. But yeah, that's what I kind of went a little overboard there. But really good movie. Be aware of that in movies, though. What they're trying to do there. There are things about the East that is cool, but like really, the West is amazing, and we should love it. All right, that's all I got today. I'm gonna stop. I'm doing the hat because the hair is always messed up. And I was wearing a hat today for some chores. And I was like, why don't I just wear it during? So if my hair is wild, I'm just gonna wear a hat now. I think it's gonna work. I think it looks all right. Maybe just get a haircut or something. But that's what I got for you tonight. Anything else? I think that's it. So please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think about the show. Any questions? Anything you hate about it? Anything you love about it? And God bless you. God be with you. And I will see you on the next one.